Good morning. I'd like to take a few moments here to challenge you with a story. But it's not a typical story in that it's not about a particular person or some amazing event, although it does involve people and some events that I feel are pretty incredible. But no, this is a story about a question. And it's a question that I believe deeply impacts all of us. A question that, on some level, I believe that we have wrestled with and maybe even asked ourselves. I first heard this question out of the mouth of a 12-year-old American girl living in the Philippines. What is this question? Well, it's pretty simple, just 5 words. Why can't we do more? Why can't we do more? The little girl's name was Janelle, and what she was talking about were the thousands of street kids in the Philippines. Daddy, why can't we do more for the street kids? She asked quite simply and humbly as she looked out the window of her car. There's a group of boys playing that obviously didn't have any home and barely any clothes on their back, but smiles on their faces as they played with a stick in the middle of the street. My first experience with that kind of poverty was when I was living in Niger, West Africa, and I was 10 years old. My family, we lived in a pretty simple house, nothing fancy, had a little yard and a wall around our yard. And in our yard, we had a little pool, like all the foreigners did, because the power and the water would go out so often. We'd need to take that water from the pool to flush our toilets, to wash our bodies. But our neighbors didn't have a pool. Our neighbors to the left of us, their house, well, really a hut, was made out of sticks. And the neighbors in front of us, their house was made out of straw. And the neighbors to the right of us, I guess trash is what their house was made out of. Pieces of cardboard and cloth strewn together to make some type of shelter, a shelter that they called home. And it was there in those streets that my sister and I would play with the children from these different homes. And oftentimes, we'd walk out of our little walled house, and we'd see kids digging through our trash. It was a humbling experience to see people looking through and viewing your trash as their treasure. Those experiences forever cemented in my mind the absolute abundance that I have. No matter how poor I thought I was as a little teacher's kid, or how much others had that I thought I needed. No, on some level, I am very, very rich. I don't know about you, if you've traveled to some country and seen that kind of poverty, but if you have, you understand that uncomfortable feeling that comes over you. You know, in fact, all of us here have seen that kind of poor desperation. They're beggars on the streets in Hong Kong. Shoot, just a block away on our way to Festival Walk Mall, we pass by the beggars wanting some handouts. It's an uncomfortable feeling that comes over us because, well, we realize in that moment of comparison how much we have and yet how much we complain. It's a shocking realization to understand that the clothes on our back, the cost of the clothes that we're wearing could probably feed that man or that widow or that poor crippled child for months, maybe even a year. It's a feeling that more often than not drives us to look away and think of something more happy as quickly as possible. Or maybe if you're like me, sometimes we justify. Oh, man, if only I had some change in my pocket, I'd give it to him. But, I only have this $100 bill. Perhaps if you haven't pushed that feeling away so quickly, you've thought to yourself and wondered, why don't people do something for them? Why doesn't the government take better care of its people? Why don't parents take better care of their children? Somebody's to blame. And it's certainly not me, and it's certainly not you. But then there's Janelle, the 12-year-old girl who got it. She made it personal. Daddy, why can't we do more for the street kids? Her father, Jeff, he couldn't ignore the power of that convicting yet simple question out of the mouth of his innocent little girl. And so, Jeff and his family decided they would do something more. They sold a few things, they talked to a few people, and pretty soon they were able to raise enough money to start a children's home, an orphanage for the street kids in Manila. And soon, more needs started to arise. And that question of why can't we do more continued to drive their family. And so they started and built a community center with a free dental clinic and then a kindergarten. And more kids started to come, and so they started building more classes, and it wasn't long until 400 kids were receiving free education, all because of a simple little question. But it didn't end there. That question became an organization called Kids International Ministries. And that organization operates in 5 different cities on 4 different islands all over the Philippines. There's now 2 orphanages. There's a home for over 30 abused teenage girls. There's a birthing center. There's an outreach center for street kids. There's a feeding program that feeds over 1,000 meals every single week. And there's an educational program that educates nearly 1,000 people from age 3 all the way up to college. Amazing. From one question, why can't we do more? And somebody with the courage to say, yes, I can do something more. This all became very personal to me back in 2007. I was working at Seoul Foreign School in Korea, and I met a most amazing young woman, Yoonjin. She had a heart for God and for kids that was deeply compelling. And she, too, lived a life that just always looked for how she could do more for others. We were married in June of that year, and then just 3 weeks later, we were in a car accident, and she did not survive. My world, my world was rocked, and I was shattered. But in the midst of the pain and the grief that followed, there was something inside of me that just refused to believe that tragedy would be meaningless. I longed for, hoped for, prayed for something more. Eugene and I both longed to have kids, and obviously we weren't going to have any kids of our own, so I decided to ask people to donate some money in her name to a small children's home that was just getting started in the Philippines called Kids International Ministries. Amazingly, through the donations and through insurance money, we raised several $100,000 US. And that money was used to purchase a building. And that building, now called the Amos Lyso Ministry Center, operates as the hub of the ministry activity going on in Manila through Kids International. When I worked in Korea, every year I would take a group of 40 to 70 students there to participate in the building of homes, building of classrooms, playing with the orphan kids, teaching them English in the classrooms, participating in the feeding program, and a host of other activities, all with a purpose of helping them see that they can do more. They can have significant and lasting impacts on the lives of other people. And it doesn't take a tragedy to open their eyes, just a willingness of heart. So that, I guess, is the story of the question, why can't we do more? You know, I didn't tell you this story because I think it's a cool story. I told you this because I don't want it to be the end of the story. I hope that you will take that question to heart and make it deeply personal. Why can't I do more to make a difference in this world? The sad reality is the answer to that question for so many is they don't care. The reason I don't do more is because I don't care, and frankly, I couldn't be bothered. But I believe that you are different. You're here at TEDxYCISHK because you do want to make a difference in this world. You do. You want your life to mean something. You want your life to be great. And a great life, well, let me tell you, a life is great not because of the pleasures one enjoys, but because of the significant differences one makes in the lives of others. You know, it occurs to me that I've been telling a story of a different question altogether. This is not the story of the question, why can't I do more? Because, frankly, I can, you can, we can do more. The story is actually about the question, how? How can I do more to make a difference in this world? How can you do more to make a difference in the lives of others? And that's a story that only you can tell. I don't know how it will end for you, but I do know how it must begin. It must begin with the desire to ask yourself the question, the willingness to open your eyes to the needs around you, and the courage to act. You can do more. Now, I imagine probably several of you might be sitting out there thinking, wow, that's great, Amos, and I do want to do more, and I want my life to mean something, and when I grow up, man, I'm going to. But, you know, I'm just a student right now. I want to challenge you further. Don't put that kind of limit on yourself. I'm reminded of a primary school girl I knew in Seoul. She learned about the needs of the children up in North Korea and wanted to do something to help. So she started to collect socks, and she would send them up with her father, who would go up and visit North Korea. This word spread, and soon she was collecting and sending thousands of pairs of socks to the kids in North Korea. She had the desire to ask herself how she could do more. She had the willingness to open her eyes to the needs around her, and she had the courage to act. And she was a primary school kid. If you look online, there's lots of stories of young people starting nonprofits and making tangible differences in our world. But you know, this is not just about the big world out there. It's about here. Having the desire to ask the question, opening our eyes, and acting right here in the places that you're from. Maybe it's starting with your family. Maybe your school, maybe your neighborhood. Do you want to make a difference in this world? Then open your eyes. The needs are all around you. Identify one and act. I firmly believe that you can be the generation of hope and positive change that our world needs to see. Desire to ask yourself the question. Be willing to open your eyes to the needs and have the courage to act. It's such a simple challenge, yet one so few seem to take to heart. But I believe you can be the difference. If thousands of lives can be positively and eternally changed because of one 12-year-old girl's question in the Philippines, then I know without a doubt that this world can be better because of you and your desire, your willingness, and your courage. Go. Be the change that this world, that our world needs to see. Thank you.